Make it bigger? Yeah, right. Make the circle bigger.
All right, well, we might as well start going. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. This is quite a turnout for such beautiful weather we've been having. But this is an idea whose time has come, and I would congratulate everyone here for having their own thoughts of what the town might do to celebrate its uniqueness, its history, its future, in a bunch of creative ways. Cornwall is known as a creative place, and hopefully, without too much effort, we can tap into that.
Can you speak louder?
I can speak louder.
Turn the heat off.
I can turn the heat off.
No, I can hear you.
So, anyway, that was just a little introduction, thanking everybody to come. And the purpose of this meeting to start out with is one person said there's so many ideas already about what the town might do, it would be hard to channel all them into a successful calendar. But what I thought, and the selectmen have talked briefly about this, is tonight is an idea night. Kate Frye Gang has agreed to record ideas down, and then the selectmen soon will appoint sort of a committee, a management committee to work on the nuts and bolts of pulling off some of these events. And it seemed to me that there are three types of events, at least, having looked at the list that's been compiled to date, which is by no means exclusive, but that there should be several central events. The town, as some might remember, had a wonderful 250th celebration here 25 years ago with a parade, a big picnic, and several events. So something in that may be in order, as well as it's been suggested some sort of party in West Cornwall surrounding the bridge, a dinner. Ian Ingersoll certainly was open to something, having a band on his porch and having an open dinner party, probably not as extensive as the fire department bridge dances of old, but something that the community would, would be a community-wide event down there in maybe the fall. That seemed to work out well as a good time of year to do the traffic blocking off the bridge last September, because it's not in the height of tourist things. And that's one of the things, too, is the committee, and we'll have to block out dates, because we don't want to, I think, be on top of some of the important and cherished events, such as Memorial Day, Ag Fair, maybe even Rose's Show, the rummage sale. Those already take a lot of civic work as it is, and I think we probably should work those big events around the existing calendar. And there's plenty of weekends that are open. The third thing was to maybe do something in Cornwall Bridge, perhaps around the tree lighting, which was very successful this year, and there was a good turnout for that. Maybe expand on that in a special anniversary way, but that would also get, for example, an event in each one of the village centers. So that's sort of one category of sort of bigger events. The second category seems to be that there would be events, and I've already talked to people at the Historic Society about doing a year-long historic display of what's happened in Cornwall, because certainly there's a lot of important, interesting, and fun stories that should be retold about what happened. So that's a group, but I see Margaret's here from the library. The library could have a series of events, highlighting our literary tradition or new, poetry contest, and we certainly think that a central committee doesn't have to be responsible for, but could coordinate a lot of these things and put them on a central website so we have an overarching organization that plans things out so everything doesn't happen on the same weekend, that things get spread out through the year, and we get as much, as I said before, creativity, diversity. There's another whole series of events that can happen concerning the river, concerning the outlying districts in town. There's a bunch of different things. So there's sort of a opportunity for some of the civic organizations to take the churches, for example, to take on, in addition, could do their own presentation of their role in the life of the town. So we are lucky that whatever happens doesn't all have to be centralized from a committee. Cornwall is known to be a little bit spread out, and in a way that's a strength, and it's also a strength is volunteers and existing civic organizations that are already in place that do have a lot of resources, human and otherwise, to pull off some events. So that's the second category. And the third thing that I thought of, or that came to me, was there may be events that come up that aren't even necessarily sponsored by an existing organization, but somebody wants to have, let me say, a song writing contest about the river, or there are other events like Paint the Town, which we did in West Cornwall last year. That certainly can be put into a category. So there are a bunch of different things that are out there, and that's about as far as my thinking had gone. And the real purpose of this meeting is that it's the start. It's the start, and at the start, neither me or the rest of the selectmen, I think, have any monopoly on good ideas, and we are impressed by the turnout, by the interest shown tonight. So it's sort of an open discussion, but I just thought there needs to be some framework, or else we need a framework going forward. So that's my framework, was to get ideas out tonight. Selectmen appoint a committee, and that committee try to get a calendar set up by the spring. Obviously, we can't have a whole lot of, we could even do something to skier. Let's say we can't do a lot of stuff in the snow, but obviously Cornwall does a lot of stuff in the snow. But anyway, so the idea is trying to get a calendar by spring and have a lot of events lined up for summer, fall, and winter. So that's as far as I got, and I'll just moderate. Does anybody who has something to say?
I just want to ask, how much money is going to be out there? I mean, before we can start, say we wanted a bridge dance, or we wanted a party, or we wanted something else. How much money is available that we can start thinking about this?
Well, that's a very good question, of which there's not really a firm answer. I know the other thing I thought I'd mention too is my other thought was that the town sort of under-celebrates the 4th of July, but Park and Rec already has a July Fest, so there are events that we can sort of build on, and there's experience, and there are groups like the 8th grade class that needs to raise money for a trip, so we don't necessarily have to buy food for every event, and there are vendors that we can do stuff.
Kind of what I was
I know, but I think there's ways so that this effort doesn't have to be funded from scratch. There are ways that there already are some assigned events. There are already organizations that may do things, but I think part of the thing that has been mentioned is we could tap into a moderate amount of the of the Gates bequest, the town has a policy to spend no more than $10,000 per year of that amount, but there is a big resource there, and if this committee comes up with a budget, we could present that at the annual town meeting in May and put that, so there is, that's a substantial amount of
What
money.
you were saying is this, if we tap in the 4th of July, there would be a lot of things, a lot of events won't have any expense.
Right.
That we could do it. But some of the bigger events, we can't even plan some of the bigger events if there was no money at all available.
I mean, that's just off the top of my head. Ed Green is here from the Cornwall Association. There's the Cornwall Foundation. For example, the tree down in Cornwall Bridge, the town sort of, what?
It was beautiful.
Very beautiful, by the way, but the town sort of got that going, and there was so much fundraising and participation that it was all fundraised. I mean, we backstopped and said it will happen, but by the end of the day, the town didn't have to contribute really substantial money at all to making that happen. So maybe in the same way, those are different. And again, we relied on a lot of local labor to make that happen, a lot of labor. But there certainly is resources here to make a substantial thing, and I'm off the top of my head, another component of this whole celebration should be local businesses, and so if there's an opportunity for local food purveyors to participate and provide food, that makes a lot of sense. So however that works. Ed had a thought.
Well, in some ways it becomes a fight before the horse, we don't have a budget, but the possibility could be for the organization group to come up with some plan that let's do a budget, source the revenues for that budget, and then come to the town and see whether that's feasible. Because you're right, I'm sure the association will contribute something, other organizations in town will want to contribute, but I think you need to have a sort of a game plan for a set of budget, then a revenue source, and then sit down and decide whether that's realistic or not, knowing that we don't disguise not to look at it.
Right. All good, all important considerations.
Gordon, I do think that you outlined the three things that very well summarized all the items that were on the list that Katie had presented at the meeting. But I think there was a fourth item that Lynn and I presented, and I think it should at least be shared with the group, which was that the 275th anniversary per se, we acknowledged that there would be lots of events sponsored by individual organizations through the year. But the proposal, and I think it should be listed as a fourth option, was simply to have one big celebration that, as you pointed out, you said, one of Cornwall's strengths is that we're spread out. Well, I think that's a strength and a weakness. And there was an opportunity that Len and I saw to have one big event, perhaps the first week in August, and that would not divide people up, so they weren't going to, well, if I go to the Historical Society event for the 275th anniversary, well, then I don't go to this, or I don't go to that because I went to one. And the idea would be to bring people together who haven't been to Cornwall in a while, people who maybe have moved away, a really wonderful opportunity, almost like a reunion event. And the thoughts we had in mind involved a major scavenger hunt brought together with an event maybe at Mohawk or in the Colesfoot Valley with a town paid for barbecue, big event, perhaps with whatever goes on there, where everybody would come together in one place. Maybe a theme cake that would be fun, maybe bands, music, and then maybe eventually culminating with fireworks. And our thought was, now, I did not know we had a new town policy about how much money could be spent out of the Gates Fund, because I didn't think it was specified in the way they gave the money, but we had thought that maybe $25 per person in Cornwall, which would come to a total budget of $35,000. And that it would be a single big party on one day before the kids go back to college and when people tend to come back to Cornwall. And I just think it should be out there as a possible fourth alternative.
Does anybody, I mean, we can go around we can do a couple different ways, but we can just go around the room and get everyone who wants to throw out an idea, throw out an opinion. We could do it that way. There are people here representing different organizations, and maybe they could give a synopsis of what their group might do. So, who wants to start? Joanne started. So, Margaret, do you have anything? There's a library. I mean, we can just start there and just keep on going around.
I hadn't really thought about it much before this evening. Summer is pretty busy for us, so we do a lot of children's programming over the summer. So I don't know if summer would be the time when we would want to do something. I really like the idea of a poetry or an essay writing contest or something like that. That would be nice. And we could handle that independently. We wouldn't need, we would just do that as part of our regular program. The other thought I had is that, I'm having children's summer camps now, and I try to organize them around some theme. And, I could organize this camp now, Cornwall. I don't know what that would really mean. It'd be the readings and the crafts and all that stuff would be somehow related to Cornwall. So I can see that we would do, a lot of things along those lines, which is sort of within the whole spectrum of our usual programming.
One thing that you're speaking sparked a memory that I think the 250th, there was a book compiled of essays written by local youth and on Cornwall topics, so it was actually published somewhere. I can dig out a copy of it. So that would be, I mean, they just produce their own page and staple it together, which is probably a different way to do it now, but it would be a great project, and that way it all gets put down, and then people can come back 50 years later and see what they did. It'd be a
I
great
can tell you
thing.
what about that, because I was in on that on
There
the
you go, John.
50th. It had a green cover. It was edited by Charlie Osborne.
There it is.
And we had a whole box of extras, and we gave them to the Hysterical Society.
We still have, we have some of them, yes.
Right.
And it was a book that spanned the generations. Writings were taken from people who are no longer with us, really no longer with us, as well as children at school who have written essays.
And some who were barely with us.
Yes. Anyhow, it was a well-produced item and did well at the time, and I think at that time, the more you published, the cheaper it was, so we have boxes of them still, which are of historic value. So I brought it as thinking that this was something that could go on during the year, that the school, CCS could be involved in the kids appreciating the history, particularly the fourth grade, but all of them. And then other people's observations or contributions would be welcome. But I don't know who would be in charge of it, but the Historical Society was involved, I guess.
No, they weren't. Charlie Osborne was the brains behind that, and he edited it.
Yes.
Charlie had worked for Time Life Books, and he was a good editor, and he put it together really. And the Historical Society, Michael Gannon wasn't interested in it.
No.
And I remember we gave him a box or two of them, and I don't know what he did with them. He put them aside somewhere. But I got the impression that because he didn't have anything to do with it, he wasn't interested in it.
Well, I don't know. He was pretty much interested in all his.
Whatever.
And anyhow, I do think that this is something that can be done over the year and from different points of view of different people. So,
I think it'd be great to put out a second edition,
Yes,
as well
me
as
too. I
sell
do
the
too.
rest of the first. Finance the second by selling the first.
well, I think we could have two first, by
Excellent. So, I mean, it's the kind of thing too, where there's two organizations, maybe you could bring that back to your directorships and maybe take that on, because I think that'd be a wonderful thing to do. Yeah. Great. Bianca?
I was just thinking about it because, wouldn't it be great to also celebrate the different aspects of town, like the agriculture? I mean, that is such a big part of what this town used to be, to maybe have a tour of the various different farms, even those that are perhaps not functioning anymore as like producing farms. But I think that could be maybe like even be a fundraiser for one of the entities, like we used to have the house tour. Because I think Cornwall is such a funky place. People come to it because they want to see how do these people live? How do these farmers function? They're curious. They are all voyeurs. They're just, and I think that might be nice to do.
We have
Mrs.
had
Scott.
many farm tours,
Mhm.
and they're not, some people don't even show up at one farm.
Huh.
I mean, it's like Chris Hopkins has people coming in and out all the time when he's selling stuff, but they won't come just to tour the farm. We used to do, there was 4 farms a year that we used to have toured, and sometimes we wouldn't get anybody to come.
Yeah, but if
Yeah,
it's
but
They buy a ticket now.
Yeah.
To pay to come, that might be more.
something really nice and publicized.
It may be, yeah. I know Goshen had a big,
What years did you have that?
Oh, we've had, because I'm on the Ag Commission too, and I'd have to look back, but it was like a couple years ago. It's the same as this maple
10 years
syrup
ago.
tours. We've had a lot of, some years it's really full,
yeah.
and other years nobody.
Goshen had a big deal with theirs.
Yeah.
And again, maybe there's different places that weren't here 10 years ago when we did it, but that may be something that we could, put under this umbrella to get more publicity for the event.
Because farm to table is such a big deal.
Now it is,
Now
but
it is.
maybe it would
It's
make it
amazing.
better, I don't
And
know.
if that's it, if you can connect with local restaurants who actually use that, help sponsor it, you would think
Well,
that.
also, if we did some of the events, the kinds of things Deborah Tyler comes up with for Mothering House, the cider making, or the different activities that she does, and plug them into the drink. So there's an event in each farm.
At the wreath making, there were 4 of us there.
At the what?
Wreath making, there were 4 of us at the farm, which isn't.
Yeah, well, that's because there was one, it was about 16 people at the church a few weeks earlier, so you gotta weigh them out.
I think a big party sounds good to me.
Yeah,
Really. And have all the other things too, but a big party.
Well,
sounds
the
Well,
other thing, just to keep it sort of general, is the other idea is that we could still have a big party and still have the different concerns do their own thing too throughout.
Oh, yeah.
It's not really necessarily an either-or situation.
But not that everybody's going to go to that. It's a big party, I think everybody goes to.
No, this is just,
The advantage of having multiple things, multiple time frames, is the one thing we have, you can do all the planning you want, but the one thing we have no control over is the weather. And if you put all your eggs in one basket and that's the event, and it's not really very conducive of weather, then you end up with not a lot.
We have a nice new tent.
Yeah, so if you have several things beforehand, some big event, I'm not saying the same day, but, something in May, 2 things in June, some big event in July or August, other small events in the summer, something in September, then you have a chance of, on some of those days, the weather will be perfect. And,
Or not.
right. And also, it's hard to get one day everybody is in Cornwall too. So if you had, that's why I thought if we had, maybe one big event here, but also have another event if somebody's not here, July, August, maybe they can do something in September. So part of this is to have several parties, and the social aspect is really important. That's one of the best things about Cornwall's great events is that they're very social, they're very inexpensive, and people enjoy them.
Barbecue at the Hare, I think it was the Hare Farm or Park Farm, was great. It was really a great barbecue, and a lot of people
were there, and you all had a lot of fun. There were a
Right.
lot of people.
Oh, at the Hart.
Oh, at the Hart Farm.
Right.
Yes,
Yep.
right. That was really great.
Yep.
And then there was another one at Foot Field
Yep.
that was really good. It was, I think you got your hamburgers or whatever free, and
Yep.
it was really nice. It was everybody in the town went,
Right.
and it was really great. Well, I like a big party, so.
That's good. I think a lot of people do. Yeah.
So I think that what we have to do is when we organize this, it's enough, we're gonna celebrate this throughout the year. And then to try to coordinate events so that they're distinctive, and so people know that they can attend, as opposed to a one-off. So I think the key, as you say, is to organize the plan, to think through, work with the organization, so that we can present to the town that this is gonna be an event that we're gonna, not just a one-off celebration, but throughout the year. So we'll have the Historical Society, the library, Conservation Trust, whatever, because this is a big event. And a big event can be celebrated over several months, not just one time. And I don't like one event for that reason, because it could, in a sense, not work out. But we've got organizations, I think, especially the Historical Society, the library, there's a lot of rich history that people should be reminded about that we can do. And also celebrate business in town, but I think it really has to be coordinated and announced so that people can be aware throughout the year on their calendar of what's going to happen, so they will make an effort to come. And there's various ways we can get the message out. There's no
Right.
trouble about that at all.
Yeah, I mean, my thought is this would have its own little thing on the website. You know, I mean, again, we're lucky to have that resource here, and we can just put a link right in there and list all these events, and that doesn't have to be reinvented. And in some ways, people are more tuned in to that source of information than they were 10 years ago. So it can be updated without having to wait, you know, for the Chronicle to come out next month. We can just, you know, so it's a lot of advantages there.
You know I'm an interloper from across the river.
Yes, from the West Bank.
So I wonder, what is your relationship with the rail company? I'm picking up on your idea of celebrating kind of the far-flung Cornwalls, certainly, you know, the connection to West Cornwall and Cornwall Bridge. If the train could have a little tourist thing, even an open air car that would go back and forth between the two towns.
Oh, that would be interesting.
But you would
So,
have to, I mean, I don't know if
right,
you guys
no,
would-
I know people at the railroad, and that would, they might, it hasn't been done recently, but it doesn't mean it can't be done. So anyway, I do know people that, at the railroad that are, you know, I'm not sure they do have to do freight back and forth, so whatever, that is an interesting idea.
And following that, and also keeping away from the tyranny of the automobile and trying to connect these far-flung things. I've walked a little bit on the Trinity, what I call the Trinity Trail, I guess
Right.
it's over River Road.
Yeah,
I mean, it's only like 5 miles from the two towns.
yeah, it's an hour and 45 minutes you can hike from West Cornwall to Cornwall. Okay. Or you can take a train and get there in 5 minutes.
But is that all right, is that a right of way that we all have a right to cross from one to the other?
We need, again, to talk to the railroad because they have, the trail peters out like halfway down, and we would need to contact them and let people know we're coming, but there is a right of way that we have gotten permission before to walk it in a public way.
And if the conservation trust is taking over that land from Trinity and the state land?
Well, yeah, that's, the Conservation Trust land is actually up on the hill. The land down in the valley is retained by Trinity, so whoever buys the building gets the 3/4 acre railroad abutment with it, because the railroad's down in the valley. The Conservation Trust land is mostly up on the hillside and up to Dibble Hill. So there is a long stretch of river frontage and railroad track that abuts the land in the valley, which was the 90 acres that is separate from what the Conservation Trust is doing. Okay? So That's an interesting idea.
And it's also, it's an event that you can see families and younger people
Right.
doing.
I mean, plus the whole history of the railroad stations and how many trains went from where to where, because the railroad built West Cornwall and to a large degree Cornwall Bridge. Having that access really put them on the map. But anyway, that's,
Stuck the way the other carriages.
yeah, so it became a focal point. But anyway, that is a bold new idea. Anyone else? There's a lot of creative people here we haven't heard from. Becky, how does this strike you with Park and Rec, July Fest?
I mean, we can make the July Fest bigger. We have our regular meeting on Monday, so I can
Yeah.
bring it up that, we haven't talked about it, but this is a good impetus to do that. You know, the July Fest is usually 4 hours, and it could certainly be longer, or it could involve dinner, or the dinner the night before. July 4th is a Saturday, so that's a good day, but, I can't really say if the commission has discussed it yet, so we will.
My only thought of July versus August is my long time observation is a lot of families are here in July and take off August as a vacation. I just noticed that for, you know, the farmer's market or whatever, or, you know. So I would think the big party in July makes some more sense. Also, the town, as I said, under-celebrates somewhat July 4th. It is a important holiday where everybody, you know, thinks about taking some time off. And that might be a natural time for the big splash.
When we had the 250th, I was also on the committee, and I was also on Park and Rec at that time. We had like period games and stuff like that. Not that I want to bring that up, but we could have like if you usually have the baseball game, right?
Not the past couple of years, because
I
the
haven't
past
been
2
last
years we've
couple
been
years.
here, up out of the town hall.
But you know, if you had some kind of like games and stuff that might have been games through the years, or something like that you could bring back, you know.
They did, I mean, one of the things I remember the most about the 250th anniversary was the parade. It was very unusual. There were artists on a float dressed as Whistler's mother. There was Walter Killam in an electric vehicle saying he resettled Dudley Town. There was Chris Hopkins just bringing a cow up the middle of the road. And that, I mean, it was a very short parade, but it was very colorful and very genuine. And it wouldn't, you know, and again, the fire department would have to be consulted for traffic and stuff, but
that was so intense. I mean, we had fire companies from like Cornwall,
Right.
New York, and Cornwall, Massachusetts, and Cornwall.
Right.
I
Cornwall,
mean, they had
England.
came everywhere.
Right.
250. I mean, they were backed up all the way onto 128, down 125.
Right, that was a big deal, which I don't think we have to repeat that because
No,
that's
I'm
a
not
lot
saying
of
that. What I'm
hospitality.
saying
that we
is,
can do.
like game, because you have
Right.
Park and Rec on the 4th of July, you usually have something like that. I'm saying more fun games on that day. If you're
Right,
gonna have
and there's this
July
other thing
Park and
too,
Rec.
where we have now become in the last year, we've become the foot race capital of Litchfield County. It's possible to have one of those two races here, because I think it'd be fun to watch everybody, whether it's the little guild race with the dogs or the other one, which was interesting. I mean, that's possible just to piggyback that, because that does bring in more people. It's a lot of excitement. And then there's also the kids race, and you can even walk in these races. You don't have to even race, but there's a 1 mile race just around the village.
Yeah,
So-
we've done that at the
Yeah.
July Fest, the past
So
2
that
years.
would be, I mean, the more sort of low impact events that we can get people to do, I think that would be good. The thought too is probably not to have this thing be an all-day event, maybe, you know, from noon to 6 or 10 to 4 or something, but not tire everybody else out. And if if it was on July 4th, a lot of people have their own family picnics at night, so maybe have it in the middle of the day, building up to that, and then at 4 o'clock, everybody could go and do what they normally do on 4th of July. Dick Sears is here, HBA.
I'm scared. As a newcomer, there's so much rich art, music, drama, culture that we need to celebrate as a history and the present. And so we need, when I was in your position in the town of Washington 10 years ago, we had our 225th. We're just a young group down in south of here. But we had two major events. One was a big event at the high school auditorium with talent. And I was thinking here, you know, you had the history until about 3 years ago of your talent show until Christmas time. But I thought tonight might be generating ideas, and then you're going to empower kind of a central committee to deal with some of these, but all the other pieces can happen. You know, because we're such a diverse community, you're not going to be able to hold the historical society down or tell the library what to do. You know, so there'll be plenty of room for everybody, but the resources of the town might focus on one or two big things. That's what sounds good to me. So we had this big celebration, and Skitch Henderson and some other people came. Somebody rewrote "This land is your land," "This town is your town," and then we all sang that. But you might have the people's history of Cornwall, as it was or might have been or should have been. You know about the people's history of America. So it could be a parody, it could be a lot of fun, it could generate that one-time event where lots of people could engage just on that one time. And that's not the centerpiece. But that might be during a big celebration day. You know, or that could happen in an October evening or whatever. The other one was that the Land Trust sponsored, we had a huge parade. So I think I heard that. You had a parade before. That's kind of a wonderful, silly, fun thing that everybody can engage at different levels and end up at a place, and then there was a big cookout kind of thing. That was the big event. But there was also a video. You know, you get some talented people here, and it might be some kind of a video. It might be a logo. We had one of our artists. We just asked, anybody want to develop for that celebration? I mean, there's so much creativity here. Or a flag or something like that. So we talked to the HVA. We're players here in town. We're partners with you, with us together. We want to celebrate the river with you somehow. The river was before the railroad.
Dick, how about an armada?
Well, how about a flotilla?
Right.
How about, you know, I've heard stories of the unofficial armadas of the tubing group that would hop in West Cornwall with paddling their six-packs down the river. So in the right time, but my boss, Lynn, reminds me that the best time to float on the river, if you really need water, is earlier in the year.
Right.
Yeah, but HVA would possibly do some, you know, help pull that together. You know, whether it's a raft contest, you know, a silly raft contest on some of the flat water, or like I saw on your list, the kids poo stick or a little boating contest, or, you know, get anybody that wants to float on the river, wear a life preserver, but come down and then end up for your party or somewhere.
And it's cold.
The river can be cold. It's very warm.
On the day.
So I thought, the last, I don't have a lot of more ideas. There's tons of ideas. It's not my ideas, but maybe tonight you might just, before we end, say, okay, we got all these ideas. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? So that the committee you form goes away with some sense, other than just their own opinions.
Right.
You know, we all have our own opinions about whether it should be one big, four little, 18. But maybe the group could say, I think this for Cornwall this year, this might work, or I don't want to do it. You know, that's all.
Okay.
Just had a thought about one aspect, and it seems like there's an undercurrent of, we want it to have an old-timey feel. And if you did something, like say you did something on the green here, a big event, don't allow cars in. Have some other alternate parking and people come in and horse and buggy or something, or anything that gets all the cars out of here. Because that seems to be an issue, a safety issue And it just sort of takes away from the atmosphere we try to do in Evergreen here.
Okay?
The UCC will be doing something during the year, I don't know what yet, but in 1740, when you got land for a town, you got a meeting house. So our beginning history is one and the same with the town. And so I don't know what it'll be, but it'll be something. We'll certainly be supportive of whatever the parties are. We like to party. So we'll be supportive of that, and probably, it may even be in conjunction with something with the Historical Society, I don't know, because it involves historical documents and all that stuff too.
The first town meetings were at the church.
I'm sorry?
The first town meetings for a long time were held at the church, because the church,
Oh, everything.
the congregation
In
of
the
churches.
meeting house, right, the school, the town meetings,
Yeah. I was thinking about, you know, when you said the writing book, I was thinking that if we made something new, that maybe we could also put pictures in that some people might not be well, you know, can't write that well, or do something else, that maybe even kids take pictures of what they view, or like what they think Cornwall is. You know, like what makes Cornwall Cornwall, and have them take pictures, and not just be kids, but also adults. Something that really makes them feel like what Cornwall is to them, what it means to them.
That's a good idea. I think that the bears that were taking pictures, the bear pictures that the Conservation Trust, I thought that was a great idea, and they were so varied, and they had a theme, but I think the theme that you're suggesting is would be response. I think kids in school now, that's what they do, and I think that now we have the, a few years ago we could only do print stuff, but now we can do more digital stuff.
And then that would bring in more people, more kids, more kids.
Also a guessing game, where is this?
Yeah.
One idea I have is not only the idea of doing it with a theme, but since scanning is so easy these days, people just submit historic pictures knowing that they don't have to, it doesn't have to leave their house, it doesn't have to go to any kind of a fancy reproduction. Yeah, they would just scan it and send it to you, and we could then post, probably dig up all kinds of things from the Historic Society that they never listed that was even there, in a book, which is like your favorite memories of. That said, years ago, when the tornado first hit, I did a big mural project. The porch on the side of my house was taken, from my house. So that left a huge blank wall, and I don't know if you remember, but we put up a canvas the size of the side of the house, and we put it down on the ground, and we had all the kids in town redesign the street of how they wanted the street to then look like again, which was I actually still have that mural. But anyway, the idea of letting kids or people take off and say, okay, let's do Cornwall in the future, and what do you want to have in the future for Cornwall? To ask questions. Yeah, let's take it. Yeah.
So following up on Dick's idea that we get some consensus to show for the meeting, is it a general, and more organized events like this, people have little dots they can put on ideas and stuff like that, but we don't have any little dots tonight. But it seemed also some of these non-party events could be parceled out to the organizations that are already around, such as, I think we got some general support for the idea of a book. Everybody feels some sort of document to document this time in the town's history would be a good idea, and maybe the Historic Society and the library can spearhead that. Are least investigate that as a great project, and it can be both written and visual. I think that'd be great. The idea of some sort of farm tour, farm dinner thing, some general support for at least investigating that idea, which would, again, probably have to be a summertime deal.
The Historical Society is doing dairying this summer.
Okay?
That's the theme.
Dairy?
Yeah, the dairy business, and
Yeah.
changed from just cheese to milk because the grain came up and it was better. Anyway, the whole, I'm not on the exhibit committee, but they're planning to focus on the dairy industry and farming in Cornwall this summer, but mainly dairy. And we have a lot of stuff from Harriet Clark, of course, as things to show her whole butter business and so on. So I'm not really sure how that will shape up and what the exhibit committee is planning, but I can certainly think about it. And that could meld in with other farm activities.
I did talk to Jeff Jacobson, I think last summer, in exchange for having the Civil War encampment on the town green. He agreed to have a display at the Historic Society in the small room or something, so there would be an ongoing,
Okay.
and I'm not sure he's passed this on, because it's just the two of us, and it's not a binding agreement, but it's just a thought, that to have some sort of display there
Yeah.
in a small corner or something, so people that want to learn more through the whole, season can go there on a rainy day and learn more or something.
Yes, it's all summer exhibit. Yeah, I
Right.
think that's in the works, to
Great.
show that whole segment of it was big at that time. The
Great.
train ran every day carrying gallons of milk to New York and Bridgeport. But I don't know much about it yet. I will.
Great.
But I think it could go with other farms. I mean, the whole
Right.
farming business or activity.
Give Peter credit for the most, I think, creative idea. What's the general thought on the train, excursion train? Thumbs up? At least, I mean, I don't know where you get a passenger train. The ones that run here now
I
on.
talked with the train people, because I was trying to think of an excursion, a fundraiser for HVA. So I went right to the horse's mouth. They can't use their engines, these tracks are so bad, but they can't use their engines anyway because of their licensing or something with the state. You have to get an Amtrak engine, and I guess they don't have to be the giant ones, but
Right.
there's a whole, it may happen, but somebody
Right.
else is gonna have to cut through all of that. It's not cheap, and it's political as well as economic, but it has been done. I wasn't around when the last time the train ran. I love the idea, if you can pull it off.
The Naugatuck. I tried the Naugatuck.
Right.
Yeah.
The new concession down there, and they have a train yard down there, and they're for hire, those trains. They made an announcement, in case you wanted to go party on them.
So they get,
So there's a train yard down there of trains.
and where's the train yard? Naugatuck?
It's in Naugatuck, yeah.
So you'd start in Naugatuck and then
No, I don't know
go
how
to
they
New
get in
Haven,
here. I don't know.
head up through Denver. So eventually we get
Well,
there.
it's a fascinating idea and certainly worth looking
Right.
into
Find
at some
out
level.
what
There may be so many obstacles that it would be impossible.
And I would
for
think
whatever reason, but
they'd probably make,
They would charge.
if they would,
Yeah, give it free.
if they did it, they probably would go longer than just West Cornwall Bridge. It'd be a big, Danbury to Pittsfield Hill or something like that in the fall, maybe. So there was somebody years ago that talked about using the tracks for a steam train excursion thing.
There was.
They-
I used
they
to
were-
wait for people 2 years ago, yeah.
Okay, there was,
Oh, definitely.
right.
On the weekend.
Uh-huh.
They may have maintenance vehicles that are not
Right.
regular.
Yeah.
So it's worth pursuing.
Anyway, can you contact people? Or,
I'll give you what I got, but I
I
don't.
like the basic idea of the connection between the two town centers, between Cornwall Bridge and West Cornwall. We have the path, we have the river, so we have the train.
then, all right, so we will look into a train, maybe a hike. Did you think the HVA would take on the Spanish Armada idea?
Yeah, well, John will be leading the Armada.
That's good.
Hiawatha himself. Yeah,
Right.
we talked about it. We'll be glad to try
So
to sponsor
HVA
something.
might be
Yeah.
doing the, and I think that'd be great.
A flotilla in Armada.
Right, and again, they used to have, they still do have, they have a white water
Yeah, festival.
in May, which can be good if you're in a wetsuit, but probably in June would be better for the people that don't do this all the time.
Right.
But, you know, again, that might be a good June event
We'll-
or something, because then you get into, you go beyond June, you may not have water.
That's right.
That's great. Any thoughts of, I guess the other thing was the idea of spreading it out, or the one big event compared to 3 social events, or whatever you want to use, or consensus on that? Not that we have to decide all this at this point.
Well, if we have one big, we can still have the smaller ones. We'd like to have one big, huge party.
Yeah.
I think we have to have a rain date, obviously, just like we do with the Ag Fair. But I think the best one would be the July 4th one.
Right.
And just make that
Build
a
on that.
huge party, town party.
Right. Yep.
And make that, and then you could still have your other
Right.
events still going on.
Yep.
But that would be the main, big party.
The big deal. We'll declare independence once again.
It might be accepted.
Independence. Yeah.
And I would come.
Well, it seems like for that, if you're worried about weather, if it's at Mohawk, that's the most, isn't that the biggest building, the most safe? If it's pouring rain or if it's really hot?
But
Be
it's,
inside. I mean,
it can be hot in
tents
there.
will be.
Yeah. I think it's, yeah, it can be tough in the,
Oh, and it'll already be full.
it'll be full or what.
We have a big new tent though, this.
Big new
Yes,
tent.
it's very pretty.
That's a consideration too. So, yeah, because that, the tents get taken up in mid-July, so, but not in July. Yeah, Ed, you had
Well, I
a,
do think we have to have one event where we just celebrate the 75th. And
Right.
other things we'll read into it, and that's again, such a great time for, without it, we want to bring this all together.
yeah,
And we really is recognize that this is still a product for a long time. I think that's an interesting history, but you're right, really trying to highlight the enormous changes that have taken place in the 675 years. We could have fun too, this together. And I think people would like that too. It's a really good time together.
great.
And
So
Joanne
the-
had that wonderful idea of like having a scavenger hunt. And I remember that when my kids were in some social studies class, in they were asked for each town that they lived in, they had to find like Table Rock.
Right.
Where is, and take a picture of it. And I bet a lot of people don't know what Table Rock is. but they're- And then there's, you know, Duck Rock, or some said, you know, Table Rock is in the state forest. No, I don't know.
It's in the state forest, that's good.
But actually have some of these things that they have to do and like set it out like a week beforehand, and they have to bring it back at like on the 4th of July party. And see how many people, and they have to take a picture of it and have to
Yeah.
gather all this stuff, to prove that they've been there. You know, something like that, that would accumulate after the 4th of July party. You know, that would be fun to do. You know, take pictures of some historical thing that they had to find. And it has to go in all the boroughs.
Right.
You know,
Corner.
the 5 or 6 boroughs, you know, you got Cornwall Hollow too, we can't forget that, you know. You got East Cornwall.
There are some sites in town that they would have to find.
Right.
So certainly a couple of easy ones that everyone.
Yeah, that everybody knows, and then, and some creative ones.
Right.
It could almost be reversed too. There could be a big photograph, I was thinking last year, picture that has a whole lot of different locations, doors and entryways.
Oh, yeah,
and,
I've done that, yeah.
Yeah, and where are these places?
Oh.
To locate them. have an idea for a emblem or some sort of insignia that would go on?
Our
A
slogan.
logo? Well, a logo, yeah, that's the
Well,
word.
Actually, she submitted a logo, I didn't bring it, we don't have it, I'm sure. Do one logo, I think we have a logo contest also.
We could get it done before.
Yeah, there was.
Well, I had a logo, I don't have it.
Have a contest.
Yeah, no, I think,
Tim Prentice did it.
Bridgewater. No, it was at 275, but the stars going around like a clock for 275. So
What was in the center? Was it
just 275. Say Cornwall, the stars went around. It was pretty simple. It didn't have a lot of illustrious stuff like the bridge. Sorry, I didn't bring that.
Tim, I think you probably already remember it. Tim Prentice's years ago.
right?
You had the contest of white.
From 2:30,
Yeah.
Just updated.
We could, although they don't see it all, but, yeah.
Yeah.
It's no longer here.
Few changes, but that's all right.
You guys
Put
have
the-
the efficiency of that.
Put the new library up there.
We identify all these buildings that were in that logo.
Any other thoughts? We will, I think we have the sign-up list. We will let everybody know what we're doing. And certainly, even if people aren't on the committee, they can certainly come to meetings. I don't.
and hear you.
Said we will let everybody know what, if we get a meeting scheduled together, what the meetings are. There's certainly going to be public meetings, public input, welcome.
One thing we should do is ask if somebody really wants to be on the committee itself and mark those people down. I mean, we've got everybody contained, but if you really want to be on the committee, why don't we pass it around the link that we start next year?
Right.
Wouldn't the committee be,
Well, I thought also too, we wanted to have, there's like 4 or 5 different events. So we want to have somebody that's involved in one of those major, minor events on there too, so we can keep track of how the book, farm, train, till is going. So that's part of the deal.
would the committee, the appointed committees sort of be in charge of, it's a central concept, so to focus on the bigger events, it's going to have to draw in other resources. A lot of these other things can happen or not according to the resources. But the group you might be setting aside is really is working for the
Right.
town to get these bigger things done.
Right, and we have to think too, if we are doing the bigger things, we need some coordination with the fire department for traffic control, park and rec, or the people that are used to putting on Cornwall big events. So I thought that
Just one thing, you could do a logo contest, but as you said, you want to get it done quickly. And Ed had mentioned with the Cornwall Association, and I don't want to misrepresent what you said at the meeting, but you talked about the Cornwall Association perhaps underwriting Carol Weingold to do a logo or do some initial work on the 275th anniversary.
That's something we can consider as well. We'd like to help with it.
right.
So it might be a way to get it done quickly with somebody who really knows Cornwall as a possibility as opposed to contest, which might postpone the logo development.
Correct. Okay, any other thoughts?
I just had one other
Yes.
message from the Economic Development Committee, because I went to that meeting, and that all of them were interested in using this as kind of, here's the Colbert bump, it's the Cornwall bump, and that if they're participating in the 275th celebration, they can do a little something extra special with their business. So putting a calendar of these things together, something that's holding all this together, would be, I think, beneficial for all.
Great, well, I think we're off to a good start.
So the selectmen going to name the committee?
What?
Are the
Yeah.
selectmen going to name the committee?
Yeah, the selectmen will soon appoint a committee and off we go. So we still have a reasonable amount of time.
Well,
they can come.
if people volunteer to be on the committee,
Yeah.
why aren't they going to be on it?
Well, I think part of it too is you want to, what?
Instead of having the selectmen select.
Well, I think we have to have some focus and make sure that we get key activities represented and everything else. And there may be some at-large people too. It seemed like a very positive use. Okay. So anyway, thank you everybody for coming. Right there. Yep.
I mentioned in it.
Oh.
Like you didn't know what I was talking about. But
No.
actually, that's the one that
Okay. Got it.
helped me get that. And she's still